Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rocker Dog Podcast, the only show in existence that talks to musicians about their dogs and the wonderful ways they enrich our lives. I'm your host, Tim Dill, coming to you under the constant surveillance of my bestest friend, Charlie the Golden Doodle. And today we are very happy to bring you our conversation with drummer Matt Ochoa of Dirty Heads, who will be kicking off their Slightly Dirty summer tour with Slightly Stupid on July 11th in the birthplace of rock and roll, Cleveland, Ohio. And this is Matt's priceless Rocker Dog.
All right, right now we are talking about Nala. She is a 5-year-old terrier pit mix brindle, about 35 pounds. And yeah, she's tough. She's tough on the exterior, which is she's soft on the inside.
Now, did you get a DNA test?
I did. I did one of those DNA tests and came back with a mixture of like pit terrier, boxer, some Chinese Shar-Pei, kind of a mix of different breeds. I was kind of surprised. So
Yeah. I can't remember I get most of my information from your social posts, and I think
yeah.
you might have hashtagged them to be, Staffordshire Terrier, the Shar-Pei, which is very surprising. The
Yeah.
boxer,
I
maybe
mean,
not so
it was
much.
minimal Shar-Pei, but it was still like something like 8% or something like that in there.
Right.
And it's funny because I can, now that she's getting a little, I mean, she's 5 years old, but I can start seeing like the wrinkles or like the extra kind of saggy
Right.
skin on the neck. And I'm like, that's got to be some of the Shar-Pei, you know?
Funny. Funny.
Some
Yeah.
of the
Because
behavior too. She's very territorial and very like kind of like a guard dog, you know, but that comes with a lot of the other breeds that are in
yeah.
the
What
mix.
was the top breed? Was it Staffordshire Terrier?
Yeah. The Staffordshire Terrier and yeah, Pit Bull, American Pit Bull.
All right. Because it's funny because at first glance I was like, oh, it must be some sort of cattle dog because of the tall
Yeah,
ears,
that
but not
and
at all, right?
people have told us that too. They're like, that's what that she reminds me of that, and I mean the ears. She's got those long ears, But yeah, she got some chow in her too.
Wow,
So
that's so funny. Well, it's interesting too to
yeah,
see it come out, as she gets older.
yeah. She's very, very protective and very loyal.
So, what was the context of bringing her into your family?
So it was a time in my life where I was starting to settle down as a musician and kind of like really wanted to think about the future and like what I wanted. Did I want a family? Do I want to, I kind of wanted that relationship, that long-term relationship, that kind of like introduction into starting a family. And
Right.
my girlfriend and I had been together for a year at the time, and she had just moved in. And we had always talked about getting a dog. And it was probably late 2019 is where I kind of started going out to the rescues, the shelters, and just kind of just looking. We would go together sometimes, or I would go during the day when she was at work, and I would just kind of just go check it out and see. Like I didn't really have an idea. I knew I wanted a smaller dog just because of at the time we lived in a smaller townhome, and it made more sense to have a smaller dog. And so I would just go to the shelters and just kind of just check it out. And I went to a local shelter in Costa Mesa. It's called Priceless Pets.
Hmm.
And I would just pop in there every week or so, and I would see dogs, and they're a no-kill shelter, by the way. And so I would see dogs, and then I wouldn't see dogs there, like the ones I was seeing. I was like, oh, they got, they found a family, and it was great. And I always thought, I want to rescue. That was our plan. That's what we wanted to do. And I went in there one day. It was just an off day. I just, text my girlfriend. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna stop by. I'm in Costa Mesa. I'm gonna stop by the shelter. And I went in there, and there was a new dog that had just got there that morning. And so Priceless Pets, they have their own Instagram and they post dogs and stuff like that. And they had just posted about Nala that morning. And I think I had gotten there a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes after they opened or something like that. There was already a few people kind of like there, like waiting to like see Nala. And I had some like maybe they were like looking at another dog, and somehow I had just like, oh, I saw Nala, and she was just sitting there, like all the other dogs were barking, going crazy, and she was just kind of sitting and looking, and she was super tiny, had these big old pointy ears, and like I would like to spend time with this dog. And there was another dog there too that I saw that I thought was cute. I wanted to spend time with that dog, and so they told me, they said you can spend as much time as you want with Nala, but as soon as you are done, she goes to the next person to spend time with them. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay. They put you into another little room where you can play with the dog and see how you are with the dog. And she was just didn't want to like jump out or anything. She wanted to just kind of sniff around and she was playing with the toy. And I was like, oh, she's awesome. And there was people waiting to like see her. And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I'm texting my girlfriend. I was like, I think there's a dog that I found. And she's cute and you know, I was asking questions about Nala, like how big is she going to get? And they didn't really have any information on her because she had just came in
Right.
that morning or the night before or something like that. I was like, okay. She was just had a awesome coloring and a good size. And, they were kind of saying, well, I don't think she's going to get too much bigger. She'll probably be about 30, 35 pounds. I was like, that's perfect, and I think I spent like 2 or 3 hours with her. And then finally my girlfriend was like, I'm going to get off work early and I'm going to come meet her. And she came and it was just like, I just knew I was like, we're going to take her home.
Yeah.
Uh, there was one thing I wanted to see to see if she got along with other dogs. And
Hmm.
so they did like a little test. And like, well, we don't know. Like she just came in and Nala was still scared at that point. So she was very like docile and like it wasn't causing any issues. We put the other dog right next to her and like they were fine. I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
great. So we took her home and she was awesome. And this was so I said like late 2019 we were looking and January 15th or something like that. So that was 2020, the beginning of 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020.
Yeah, that's immediately when I saw your social post that seemed to be around January 2020. And I just had a
Yeah,
guest on recently that just happenstance that they got their dog pre-pandemic.
yeah.
But, what a benefit it probably was to everyone involved, the timing.
And that's what it was too, and that's what we talk about now, and what we talked about then. It was like, man, a blessing to get her like right before that because that whole time we were just together and we had all that time to bond with Nala and she was great for us and I'm sure we were great for her at that time and it was awesome. It was just like we would go out on walks. I mean, there'd be nobody out. Everybody
Right.
would You wouldn't see anyone. And so I will say Nala does have an issue with other dogs and does not get along with other dogs. So like that time was fantastic for her. And like we didn't know because there were other dogs around. So like
Yeah. How did you
uh,
discover she has an issue with dogs?
I would say it was probably the summer of 2020. We went over to a family member's house and they had a dog, and the dog was not going to be. We kind of knew that she didn't like she would bark at other dogs, and she was
Right.
like, I don't know, maybe we'll just keep her away from other dogs. And so we had told the family member, hey, like Nala has a little bit of an issue with dogs, maybe not bring your dog. And they're like, oh, cool, fine. Somehow later in the day, the dog ended up coming and showing up and kind of surprised everyone and took Noah off guard. And it ended up being a pretty major dog fight that we had to like break up. But because of that incident, she went into like this super lethargic state afterwards. And like, come to find out, like we took her to the doctor. Like it turns out she was diagnosed with Addison's disease. And so Addison's disease is like it's an adrenal gland disease to
Okay.
where your adrenal glands produce hormones for your body, like cortisol and another hormone that I can't really pronounce, but basically regulate your sodium and potassium levels. So because of her disease, she doesn't produce enough of this hormone. So the cortisol is kind of like the stress hormone. So when she gets into fights with other dogs, when she is worked out a lot, if she goes on like a lot of activity or something like that, she can't really calm herself down and put her levels back. So she went into this like crisis mode after the dog fight, and she got super lethargic. And
Hmm.
when dogs with this disease, when they get into that crisis mode, it could be life threatening. So we immediately took her to the hospital after that and took her to a specialist. There's symptoms and signs, and these were signs of Addison's disease, but also could be other diseases too. But there's
Right.
one specific test that they test for Addison's disease. So she took that test, and sure enough, she was positive for it and came back that that's what she has. And so we did a bunch of research, and we were scared for her. And it's they get into those crisis modes, and like I said, it could be life threatening. But basically, the treatment is to go on a steroid and get two different steroids actually. One where she takes daily, she takes prednisone daily, and then she gets an injection every 28 days.
Okay.
And those help with her levels. And then we still take her to the specialist to make sure her levels are consistent, all of her potassium, her sodium, and so she gets yearly checkups now, because it's been managed over, the past 4 years. But in the beginning, it was definitely really scary.
It sounds crazy. I've never
Yeah,
heard of anything like that.
yeah, and I mean, people have it, but I didn't know it's pretty uncommon for dogs and
Hmm.
for her to get it. I mean, that's kind of the thing when you get a rescue, you go that route, you don't know really what's going on with the dog or the medical background, or we didn't know really what caused the Addison's disease. We looked
Yeah.
it up, and it could be trauma. So Nala's 5. We rescued her when she was 1. So there's a whole year of like information we just didn't have about her, what she went through. It was a owner surrender at the
Okay.
shelter, and then she ended up going to Priceless Pets, and that's where we adopted her. So we don't know. So however it came about, she has Addison's disease, and everything we've read, dogs can live a fantastic life as long as it's maintained and under control. And right now she's doing great, and we haven't had any incidents in the past year. And but it was kind of like a few rough years when she got diagnosed with it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, do you have to go out of your way to avoid other dogs, or is, for lack of a better term, for therapy, have you introduced dogs slowly or done pack walks or any sort
Yeah,
of,
so when we first adopted Nala in January, we had a trip planned to New Zealand already before we had adopted her, and that was in February. So as soon as we adopted her, I knew that I wanted to get her a proper training. I wanted to spend time, doing all this kind of stuff. So we did that immediately. And what we did is we did a board and train with her. And so while we were away on our trip, it was about 2 weeks, she was doing a board and train. We got back right before the shutdown, right before they closed everything. And so she came home. She was great. She knew all these commands, sit, stay, she was crate trained. It was great. It was fantastic. But in the summertime, after she got diagnosed, and before that, we took her to doggy daycares to kind of like experiment and kind of, and they would say, oh, she plays rough with other dogs. Like she was okay with other dogs if we weren't around. If we were
yeah,
around, she was like not okay with other dogs. I guess it could be that protective mode,
yeah,
or,
yeah.
that
That's
kind
what I
of
was
thing.
thinking.
But sometimes it would be like we would get her back from the doggy daycare and she was just exhausted. She was lethargic, and stuff like that. But that's weird. And so after she was diagnosed in the summertime is when we kind of limited the doggy daycares a little bit more, because there were incidents where she would like come back and she'd be in this lethargic state, or she'd start vomiting. And it was like, well, what happened at doggy daycare? Well, she was just
Yeah,
playing, or she maybe got into a scuffle with a dog, but it was like, squashed immediately. And so we did learn that it's a fine line to walk with the doggy daycares, and putting her in those situations where it could be stressful for her.
yeah,
So at this point, my wife and I, we kind of just pulled everything back, which kind of sucks because she doesn't get the socialization that I think she needs and she would thrive on. But if we put her in those situations, it's potential risk of her going into a crisis state, or,
yeah,
because of the disease. So, and also the same thing with training. Like I know a lot of the training is like we have to ourselves be trained,
yep,
and be consistent with the routines and things that she learns. And it's difficult for me touring and being gone. I feel like when I'm home, I can do an okay job at it, but when I'm
yeah,
gone, it's up to my wife. And we have a 2-year-old son now, so like Nala doesn't get as near as much attention as she used to, as far as
right,
like constant like supervision. But we did find the training and all that is definitely stressful for her. So we pulled it back, and kind of just chilling at home. We go on our walks and we do our thing, but we for the most part stay away from dogs, unless
yeah,
she gives us a sense that she's really excited to play with another dog and really is happy with another dog. But at this point, she's just like any dog she sees, stay away.
yeah. Has she been good around your son?
She's been great around my son. So before we even came home from the hospital, I had to go home to grab a bag of stuff while my wife was in the hospital, because it was kind of like a sudden thing. Oh, you're going into labor right now. So I ran home and grabbed the bag. I had some baby clothes, and so I took like a little hat and I brought it to the hospital. And then his little beanie that he was wearing. And when we came home before, we brought him in, I brought in like the hat and she sniffed it and, so she
Uh,
can get the scent and all that kind of stuff.
yep.
But I mean, that was one thing we were worried about. Like, how is she going to be around an infant? How is
Yeah.
she be? And she's been awesome. It's like a brother and sister vibe. Like,
Yeah.
especially now, my son's 2 now. And so like they steal each other's toys and they play tug of war and like, it's great. And that's what Nala did for us. Like when we first adopted her, she was the introduction to starting a family.
Hmm.
Like some people might say, oh, it's like having kids, like training wheels for a kid, but in a sense, for us, it really was. It was that first step in like, okay, how do we take care of something that's helpless? They can't take care of themselves, like we need to
Yeah.
nurture this animal and feed them and be responsible and take them out. And like that was for my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, that was our first introduction to that. So
Right. But
it's
and
super
you had a dog previously. You had a Gunner back
Yeah,
in
so
that's
Gunnar, that was kind of like my roommate's dog, and
okay.
I never really like when I was growing up. My family they had dogs, but it was never really my dog, and I was irresponsible. I was young, so this was the first time where I was like, "This is my dog," you
Right.
know.
Right.
But yes, Gunnar was my roommate's dog, and I love that dog. But we were pals, friends.
Right.
But this is like Nala's like my daughter dog, you know.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny because I was going to ask, I just by everything you've said so far, but one of my questions, and I often ask if the dog is on brand to like the band, and I would lump your
Yeah.
band in with like the SoCal laid back vibe. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
Nala's quite on brand just yet.
No, she's not. She's definitely yeah, not just like whatever goes. Like I'm just gonna chill around the neighborhood. I mean, it's funny, it's because our neighbors they have a lab and their dog is just totally Southern California, just running around all the neighborhoods. They're just like, yeah, let our dog go, just hanging out off leash everywhere. And yeah, Nala's not that. She's got on leash every time we leave the house, and it's like here to the car. Okay, we do our walks and back inside. And it's funny because man, I would love to take Nala on the road or do something like that.
Yeah.
But she's not the dog for that. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I see that a lot in that, the reggae ska community. Sublime did it 30
Hmm.
years ago, Stick
Yeah.
Figure more recently with Coco and
Yes.
who's the new dog's Molly.
Yeah.
I think it's one of your buddies, Yasad Williams of Pepper.
Yep.
He was one of my early guests on the show. He's got Jerry Garcia, and unfortunately, I think Mishka just passed away about a month
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
But what about your bandmates? I noticed on your Veeps video, kind of behind the scenes during your lockdown. I
Yeah.
noticed. I think almost everyone has a dog. Most of your members have dogs.
Yeah, yeah. Most of our guys do have dogs. Duddy, he's one of the main singers. He's a dog lover. He loves dogs. Ever since I've known him, he's had a dog. And this is something we've actually talked about recently, is that, next year or like sometime in the very near future, he's getting another dog and he wants to get a dog to travel with.
Right.
Because so our manager, Cheese, he has a dog. He's probably had this dog for 5, 6 years, but she's a little pitty mix, like small, like Nala, like
Hmm.
30 pounds. Beautiful dog, great dog. Like he got her when she was a pup and immediately started traveling with her everywhere he went. And he's been on the road with us. He's toured. He travels all the time. He goes back and forth from here in Nashville, and Stevie is his dog's name, Stevie Nicks. So Stevie travels everywhere with him. And she's the best. Like when she comes out on tour and sees us and visits and rides on the bus, he brings Stevie with her. And it's just so awesome to see Stevie. Everybody loves Stevie. She gets along with other dogs. She has met Nala. Nala and her don't get along, but that's kind of Nala's fault.
Right. Yeah.
Stevie's awesome. So like having a dog on the road in the future is something I'm super excited for. So I
Yeah.
hope that happens.
I mean, I totally get that, and I ask this question all the time, but it's like studio dogs, dogs that go on tour, rehearsal. What is it about the dog that really just makes things better?
I mean, I would say for me, seeing a dog on the road, it reminds me of home,
Okay.
because
Yeah, piece of home.
yeah, and that's where my dog is, and yeah, it just reminds you of that. I don't know, it's something about just having an animal around like that. It's just like you just see it and you're just like, oh, cute
Yeah.
dog. There, I can't remember the a company, but there's a thing to where our tour manager has done this before where they arrange I don't know if you've heard about
Yeah.
this, but they have dogs that come out to shows and
Yeah.
and and you can have the dogs there like for the day for the musicians and like you just kind of have them in an area and they just hang out and you go and you see the dogs and like that's a thing that you can do on
Yeah.
the road. And I think it's awesome. We did
Yeah,
that
I
with
keep I keep meaning to I'm trying to do that where I'm at. Still without any success, but that said, it's still only been a couple of phone calls. And I know some of the artists I talk to, I mean, the show's already 90 episodes deep. So whenever an artist comes through town, they're the first ones I go to be like, can I bring a dog? Because I
yeah.
volunteer at the shelter and I would love just to bring 4 or 5 dogs, even if it's just for social media, like just get exposure. Let
Oh my
these dogs
God.
be
We would love that.
seen.
I hope that you hit me up when we come to Charlotte.
I will definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I wind up every show with what I call the Zoomies. That's 5 fast, frivolous questions. The first one is my favorite, but it's, do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
I don't kiss my dog on the mouth, no, but she
Okay.
definitely has free reign to lick me. She loves licking my ears. So
Ears, really? How
yeah,
funny.
she just goes for my ear and she just licks my ear. Pretty much this side of my face.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a 50-50 answer, most likely. Some people go for it, some people don't.
My son will just go open mouth. I'll say, give
Oh,
Nala a kiss, and he'll go open mouth to her, and she'll just clean it out on the inside of his mouth. It's like, okay, there we go. We're building up that immune system.
yes, yes, I like that. Question two is, does Nala have a theme song? Is there any song that you attach to her that you either hear or sing, or if she was walking up to the plate, what would her music be?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'd have to pick like some sort of metal song or something or super fast punk song. I don't know.
Okay,
She just has when anybody we have this big window in our living room and you can see anybody who walks past our house and it's just like her ears go up immediately and she gets up on the window frame and just anyone she's just so focused and she's like a security guard. She's our security for our house.
yeah,
And that's kind of like what you want for your dog, but she's pretty intimidating. She's pretty scary. I know she's only 35 pounds, but I'm pretty sure anybody would be terrified if they came to her door.
yeah. I mean, that must be an asset when you're on the road,
Oh
and
yeah, it's great.
your family's in good hands.
Yeah, yeah. It does get my wife does get a little overwhelmed sometimes just because she can be a lot with the just scratching the window and anybody who comes by and but she's there to protect us. So
Yeah,
we love
good
her for
dog.
that.
Good dog. Now, I know Nala doesn't tour with you, but hypothetically, if she did, what would she want on the tour rider?
Oh my gosh. She would want cooked salmon. I say
That's
cooked salmon because recently she jumped on the counter and ate 2 raw salmon fillets, which is
nice.
kind of scary because immediately, obviously, I'm gonna look like, is this okay? Like, I don't know how many times you've
Yeah,
Googled, but I've Googled, can my dog eat this? Like,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, 1,000 times. And it was pretty sketchy. Like, it was kind of half it's like, oh, it's fine, salmon's fine, but raw salmon. And I kept seeing like, oh, if your dog eats this, there could be parasites in it and all this kind of stuff. So
Right, right.
immediately, I had to take her to the vet. She's fine, but it definitely scared me. But she definitely has a taste for salmon. I will say
Okay.
that.
Question four is, do you have a dog voice? Do you speak in a
I
voice
don't.
that would embarrass you in front of other people?
No, I don't. I don't have a dog voice. I don't do that with my child or anything. I don't know. It's just not me to do the high squeaky little guy. Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't give Nala a voice, like you don't imitate what she would sound like if she had a voice.
No, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I should start doing that
I was going to say,
though.
you're missing out on all the fun of having a dog.
I know.
Last but not least, you mentioned a great organization, but I always ask if there's an organization or service that you'd like to give a shout out to.
Yeah, Priceless Pets was where we adopted her, and they're great. They're a no-kill shelter, and they've just been awesome. They're close to us, and my wife has even done volunteer work for them and stuff like that.
Great,
And yeah, Priceless
great.
Pets,
Now back
Priceless
to
Pet
this.
Rescue. Right.
Okay, back to the story when you were first visiting Nala to take her home. Did you monopolize the time so that no one else could have any visiting time with her?
Oh, 100%.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw there were people there and I just kept looking out the window. I'm like, no, I'm gonna hang out. And I was like, can I take her for a walk? Sure, you can take her for a walk. Can I take her in the back, throw a ball? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna take her for a walk again. And just basically I was waiting for Arlene, my wife, to get off work so she can come
Yeah,
see Nala, meet Nala, and then we'll just take her home.
I love
I
it.
was not letting anybody else get the chance. I'm glad I
I
did
love
that.
it. Well, I want to ask what the band's up to for the summer. I know you got a tour scheduled.
Yeah.
What's in store?
Oh, yeah, this summer we have, man, I want to say it's probably 8 weeks, 9 weeks summer run. We're going out with Slightly Stupid, Common Kings, and the Elevators. It's going to be a big amphitheater tour. It's dubbed the Slightly Dirty Summer Tour.
Awesome.
So you can get tickets on dirtyheads.com. And I'm hoping, I haven't checked actually the official dates, but I'm pretty sure we might be going near Charlotte. So hopefully I'll be seeing you this summer.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. I think you're hitting Raleigh. I think you're going around me. I think you're going to Raleigh and
Raleigh, yes.
maybe Greensboro. But
Yeah.
hey, if I'm not
You have
busy
to come
that
out.
week, I can always take the trek.
Yeah, yeah. And bring some puppies with you.
I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thanks for coming on the show. I love
Thank you
hearing the
very much for
stories
having me.
about your artist dogs, and you didn't disappoint. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.